Hey man, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy Stevensports Studios, man. Hey man, we back with part 2 of the Bloodline Story, man. First part, we really talked about the build-up of the Bloodline from when Roman and Jay feuding up until now, where Roman is now WWE Universal Undisputed Champion. And in this video, we also gonna have a special guest. Shout out my boy Russell Spot, man. He's gonna be doing the Sami Zayn part of this video because he is, to me, maybe the biggest Sami Zayn fan of all time. So he's gonna be going through from when Sami Zayn first joined the Bloodline up until the Civil War began when Sami turned on the Bloodline. So without further ado, man, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and if you guys haven't watched part 1, man, make sure y'all go watch it. I'm going to leave the link in the description. But yeah, let's get into it. After Roman won both titles at WrestleMania, Roman told the Usos, I got 2 belts. It is time for you guys to go out and go get those tag team champions so we can really be running WWE and have all the gold in the company. Now, right around this time, there was a feud with RK Bro and the Usos, and this is one of the most underrated feuds throughout the whole Usos career. Like, this was a very, very entertaining feud. They ended up beating RK Bro, becoming undisputed tag team champions, and at that point, the Bloodline were just up at that point. There was nothing you can do to stop the Bloodline. They had all the gold. It felt like the Bloodline was just going to be an unstoppable faction. And then after, we will see the introduction of Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn was really not doing a whole lot after his WrestleMania match. But he wanted to feel wanted, and he went to SmackDown. He went to the Bloodline and basically was doing everything in his power to basically join the team. But at first, the Bloodline were hesitant. They wasn't really feeling Sami because he didn't feel the mode of the Bloodline. Like, to be part of the Bloodline, you gotta be blood. You gotta, done something significant for the Bloodline or even be family. So it was really weird to see Sami trying to join the Bloodline. But as the story started to progress, we started to really, really love Sami Zayn around the Bloodline. He was doing everything in his power to become part of the Bloodline. And then on the pay-per-view of Money in the Bank, Sami's told the Bloodline that I'm going to go out and win Money in the Bank, basically to prevent anyone from cashing in on Roman. But Sami couldn't capture the Money in the briefcase, which put him in an awkward position because everyone in the Bloodline is pretty much holding something. You got Roman Reigns with the world titles, you got the Usos with the tag team titles. Sami Zayn is pretty much just nothingless. He has nothing to his name. So winning the briefcase would have at least helped his case becoming a full-time member of the Bloodline. Now, around this time, it was a feud going on with basically the Usos and Sheamus, Drew, and the Brawling Brutes. Now, Drew McIntyre was actually feuding with Roman Reigns for the Undisputed title. They would actually go on to main event Clash at the Castle. But what's very important around this time is that Sami was literally trying to prove that he was worthy of being part of the Bloodline. And then on the episode of August 19th, this will be the first time we've seen Sami Zayn and Roman on screen together. And this is huge because Roman, again, is the top dog of WWE. So the fact that he's able to be in the same ring as Roman is insane. Like, no one knew what was going to happen. And then on the episode of SmackDown, Drew McIntyre would start attacking Roman Reigns. And at the time, there's no Usos around to help him. So the only guy he got basically is Sami Zayn. Now, Sami is cool. But, saying where the state of the Bloodline is, bro, you don't want the only guy you have left is Sami Zayn. But Sami Zayn will come in, take a Claymore, and save Roman Reigns. And then on the following episode of SmackDown, Roman would appreciate him for taking that kick and appreciate for stepping up into the plate and defending the family's name and defending Roman Reigns. But during all of this, bro, Jay was just not feeling it, bro. He did not mess with Sami at all. Every chance he got, he was just either yelling at Sami or just disrespecting Sami to his face. Now, Jimmy, on the other hand, He loves Sami. That was his dog. You know what I'm saying? Even Roman started to kind of ease up to Sami, but Jay was just not going for it. Now I'm going to pass it off to my guy, Darren. He is going to basically...
For the following weeks, we just got the Sami Zayn and Usos celebrating Roman Reigns' championship run. Then after that, another major point is that Roman Reigns defeats Drew McIntyre Clash at the Castle with the help of Solo Sikoa. So that means they got a new member of the Bloodline. And Sami Zayn is kind of taking Solo under his wing and showing him the ropes within the Bloodline. And that's really making Jay even more angry because that's Jay's real-life brother. But Sami Zayn's kind of taking the reins on that. But other than that, the next major point we got to hit and talk a little bit about, and one of my favorite segments of 2022 in the whole Bloodline storyline, is the SmackDown September 23rd episode. So on this episode, the show opens with Roman basically demanding that Solo acknowledges him. Solo then does it. That's how the segment ends, but it's not really over yet because Sami Zayn goes and grabs the mic and says he would also like to publicly acknowledge Roman Reigns. That's when I think a lot of people's hearts broke because it looked like the Sami Zayn kick out was about to happen. Roman Reigns very angrily asks why Sami Zayn is following us. What does he want from them? What is he still wearing the shirt for? He tells Sami to take the shirt off and then instructs Jey Uso to rip it off, who is all too happy to do it. Jey Uso rips the shirt off Sami Zayn, and Roman Reigns tells Sami Zayn this: I don't want to see you in that shirt ever again because I got you a new one. He then tosses Sami Zayn a new shirt, and that says honorary Us. The term is finally official. Sami Zayn is a member of the Bloodline. And for the following weeks, it's really just nothing but trouble because Sami Zayn and Jey Uso just can't get along, and that causes Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso not to be able to get along, but things are okay between Sami and Solo and Sami and Jimmy. It's just Jay's kind of burning his bridges a little bit within the Bloodline because of Sami's involvement, that he does not want him there. And because of this, they are losing matches, and Roman is not happy about that, so that's when he returns on the October 28th episode of SmackDown to kind of clean up shop what's going on. And this is the episode where Roman pretty much says y'all need to hash it out in front of him in the ring, where Roman's not really facing him, but Sami and Jay in the background are just going off at each other. And that's when the lines go, as Sami Zayn would say, why are you yelling at me for? I want peace. I'm trying to make peace. The tribal chief says he wants peace. But that's when Jey Uso drops this line. He says, I don't give a damn what the tribal chiefs say. And that's when we get that infamous Roman Reigns look up, and he just looks pissed. He's slowly turning around. Sami's saying he didn't mean that, but he was just angry, and he's not feeling like himself lately. He's not feeling very Usy. Now, you can visually see that Jey Uso is trying not to break character. He's laughing. Roman is also trying not to break character. He's laughing as well. This whole segment's just gold. Y'all should go check it out if you have not seen it. To end the segment, Roman says that if Jey Uso doesn't start feeling Usy again, that Sami Zayn will no longer be the honorary Us. He will be Sami Uso. After this, there's no really major points to hit, but that it will be the Bloodline versus the team of Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, and the Brawling Brutes at Survivor Series War Games. And this is a very major point to hit because this is kind of where the Bloodline story really starts going full speed ahead, because Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn's history is no secret here, and they of course play a major part within all this. Leading up to War Games, it's unsure. The Usos aren't, well, really just Jey Uso is unsure that Sami Zayn's going to make the right decision and turn their back on them. And he's just very scared of that. So on the night of Survivor Series War Games, in a couple backstage segments, Roman sits down with Jay, then he sits down with Sami. When he sits down with Jay, it's more of like a more aggressive thing. Jay says he doesn't trust Sami. He thinks he's going to turn tonight. But when he sits down with Sami, it's more of like an understanding tribal chief. He's compassionate. He even ends up in the segment, gives him a hug, and he says he knows what he's going to do. And he pretty much tells Paul Heyman he knows if he was lying or not. And that leads us to the match. Now, this is a very good match. During the match, so Jey Uso starts off the match, and whenever it's Roman Reigns' team's turn to go and leave the cage and go support Jey, Jimmy Uso's about to go. He stops Jimmy Uso because he wants Sami Zayn and Jey Uso to work as a team, and that's not really working out too well because the rest of the match, they're kind of just getting each other's way, making each other angry. But that's when it leads to the end of the match. We're not sure what direction Sami Zayn's going to go into, and that leads to Kevin Owens hitting a stunner on Roman Reigns. After he hits the stunner, it looks like that might be the end of the match, and the referee counts 1, 2, and that's when Sami Zayn stops him, and they're just standing up looking at each other. With Kevin Owens distracted looking at Sami Zayn, Jimmy Uso tries to take advantage and land a super kick. Kevin Owens catches him, and that's when Sami Zayn low blows him and presents Kevin Owens to the corner, lands a luva kick, catches him, and then feeds him to Jey Uso for the Uso splash. The Bloodline get the win. And if it didn't look like the Bloodline fully accepted Sami Zayn now, it was now officially official. The following Raw is Jey Uso finally embracing that Sami Zayn is a member of the Bloodline. And with the start of this relationship between them is the end of the relationship between Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, with Kevin Owens saying that he wants nothing to do with Sami anymore. He still wants to take out Roman though. And for the following weeks, might be the most complete version of the Bloodline faction because they're all just getting along, things are going great, Usos are retaining. But in December, there's a little segment between the Usos backstage where Jimmy's kind of skeptical of what's going on because he's not so sure that Roman's going to go ahead and take the honorary title away. But it's kind of opposite now because Jay's now the more optimistic one. But when that December 16th, 2022 episode of SmackDown finally comes, instead of kind of embracing and taking the honorary title away from Sami, Roman's kind of more angry. He wants to get rid of the KO problem, and he wants Sami to kind of shed that dead weight of Kevin Owens, and he wants Kevin Owens to leave Sami alone. And in this segment, Sami slips up and says he's Kevin's only friend, but he meant to say he was Kevin's only friend. But in that same segment, it is announced that on the last SmackDown of 2022, it will be Sami and Roman taking on John Cena and Kevin Owens. And the week after is very important because in that December 23rd promo, Sami kind of takes the lead and says that he guarantees they will win. And in the Bloodline, if you make a guarantee, you better deliver. And that finally leads us to the December 30th episode of SmackDown where we have the tag team main event. And in bad news for Sami Zayn ends up getting pinned by Kevin Owens. And that's bad news because the following week on SmackDown, Roman Reigns would yell and raise his voice at Sami for the first time and ask him why would he call a shot and does he think he's the tribal chief. That's when Kevin Owens takes advantage and asks for a title match with Roman Reigns at Royal Rumble that year. And later in the night, Roman Reigns says he wants Sami to prove himself. And he wants himself to prove that he's worthy by taking on Kevin Owens in next week's SmackDown. And on that January 13th episode of SmackDown, Sami Zayn looks like he might actually beat Kevin Owens in a big match in his career. But that is ultimately ruined, at least that's what it looks like in Sami's eyes, because he thought he had him beat, but he ends up losing by disqualification because the Bloodline starts to take out Kevin Owens. Fast forward a week, we got the contract signing between Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns, but the problem is Sami Zayn is nowhere at ringside. So when it is time for the contract signing, Roman signs the contract, but Kevin Owens blind-signs him, takes him out, and ultimately puts Roman through that table. And that was supposed to be the last thing before the acknowledgement ceremony, but because of Sami Zayn's absence and he didn't show up, basically, they decide to, instead of doing a public acknowledgement of Roman Reigns, they want to do the trial of Sami Zayn. Still, this might be my favorite segment from this year, because Paul Heyman is ruthlessly trying to get Sami Zayn found guilty by showing all this evidence and kind of stretching a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, but nonetheless it was entertaining. But when it's time for Sami Zayn to show his evidence, he says he has none, and if they think that low of him, then they might as well kick him out. That's when Roman makes the call on Solo to kind of take him out for good of the Bloodline. That's when Jey Uso stops him and says that he has his own evidence to show for Sami Zayn. Roman ends up finding Sami Zayn not guilty, and that's how Raw 30 opens, but it's not over yet. Roman says that he does not want to see Sami again until Saturday night, which is the Royal Rumble match, but to also make sure that the Usos get the job done tonight against the Judgment Day. And that is what we have next. We have the Usos versus the Judgment Day for the unified tag titles here, where one Uso goes down, but Sami Uso steps in, and they are able to retain the unified tag titles. That next SmackDown for the go-home for the Royal Rumble, Sami Zayn ends up showing up anyway because Jey Uso called in for a favor. That's not going to make Roman happy, but we do got to make our way to the Royal Rumble event. So it is the main event of the show. We got Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens for the Undisputed Universal Championship. And there's just a different feel to this match. You can kind of know that Roman's going to retain, but it's a different feel because usually Roman brings out the whole team, or at least only Paul Heyman. For this one, he brought Paul Heyman out, but he also only brought out Sami Zayn. Sami would not end up making use out of what Roman was telling him to do throughout the match. He missed a few calls, made Roman question his loyalty, because Roman was straight beating up on Kevin Owens. He was slamming his back and head on the steel steps. Roman even called for a chair at one point, but Sami Zayn was of course hesitant and almost cost Roman the title. But in the end, Roman Reigns ends up getting the job done, and this is where we see the most evil side of Roman Reigns, because after the match, that's when Solo and the Usos come out and they just straight beat up on Kevin Owens even more. They handcuff him to the ropes. They start giving him super kick after super kick, all while Sami Zayn is kind of just watching. And this is all being called by Roman Reigns, so he's the one calling the shots here. And when Roman's going to put the final touch by using the steel chair on Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn steps right in front of him. And here there's not like a look of pure anger on Roman's face. It's more like disappointment. And he tries to hand Sami the chair. Sami's not taking it. And he kind of just forces Sami to hold the chair. Sami keeps hesitating on hitting Kevin Owens. That's when Roman Reigns gets in Sami's face, starts pushing him around, and Sami is finally ready to use the chair. However, in one of the biggest pops I've ever heard on TV and in person, because I was there, Sami Zayn uses the chair, but he uses it on Roman Reigns. And after that chair shot, he just looks at Jey Uso, and it's not really a sign of like, his facial expression's not really a regret or anything. It looks more like sadness and acceptance, because he ultimately wanted this whole bloodline thing to work out, and he wants the best for Jey, but he just can't take that route anymore. Lions start beating him up but notice that Jey has not left the corner. They just start beating up on Sami Zayn. They even tear off the honorary Uso shirt, and this is where Jey Uso rolls out of the ring and starts walking up the ramp, and Roman, Jimmy, Solo, they're all confused, saying, this is not your brother, I'm your brother, or whatever. And the major part to end the show is the crowd is just chanting F you Roman, and he's kind of just accepting it. And this is my favorite version of Roman Reigns, where he's just accepting all the hate. And the show finally closes with Roman telling Solo, we're at war now. And I feel like that's the perfect description of the rest of the storyline, but that's going to do it all for me here today. I'm going to let Steven continue with the rest of the Sami Zayn era. I hope you enjoyed listening to me yap, but I'm going to send it back to Stevensports Studios. Thank you, bro.
And then on the episode of SmackDown, when Roman comes out to cut a promo, Sami Zayn will attack Roman Reigns from behind and start just throwing shots at Roman Reigns. You can see the disgust on Sami Zayn. He was done being Roman's little hoe. He was not going for none of that. But during this time, as you guys know, Sami and Kevin Owens are locked in. They kind of basically got in the wrestling industry. The thing is, I can understand. I mean, if you look back at what happened in Survivor Series, I mean, why would I ever talk to you or even trust you ever again? I would want nothing to do with you, regardless on how many times you apologize to me. So Kevin Owens was really not feeling him at first. But after Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns were feuding, Sami Zayn challenged Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber in Canada, in Sami Zayn's hometown, to a WWE Undisputed Universal Championship match. We're in a match where the storytelling was impeccable. Again, I keep making this point that Roman Reigns' storytelling is just different. Like, he really can tell a story, bro. And the fact that there's people consistently say that he cannot tell a story is insane to me. Like, this match was emotional, bro. It had everyone on their heels. There were moments where even I thought, yo, Sami might legitimately beat Roman. But something also to note, that Roman wanted Jey to hit Sami, but Jey hesitated. It felt like he couldn't do it, and Roman just said, man, I'll handle this myself. He would beat Sami Zayn and retain his championships. And then on an episode of Raw, Kevin Owens would come out and save Sami Zayn from a beatdown from the Bloodline. And you would think that, yo, they would be cool, they would be locked back in, but Kevin Owens still did not trust Sami Zayn. He was still not feeling him. It's just too much trauma that's happened over the past couple of months for Kevin Owens to really trust Sami Zayn. Now, around this time, Jey Uso was still in the middle. He didn't know who to pick. He didn't know how to go about this because, again, he loved Sami Zayn basically like a brother, but I mean, him, Roman, Jimmy, Solo, they're all real family by blood. Like, that's really his dog. So he was just all so conflicted on what side to choose. But then we all thought Jey would actually choose Sami's side because they would actually hug. But Jimmy said, nah, bruh. I'm rocking with the Bloodline. He was super kicked Sami Zayn. And basically, Sami was just out, bruh. He had no one else to rely on to face the Bloodline until Sami Zayn convinced Kevin Owens to team up and take out the Usos and take out the Bloodline. But also to note, Cody played a big role in Sami and Kevin Owens teaming up, and that is going to be key later on in the story. Cody is a big part of this. And after Sami Zayn was attacked by the Usos, Kevin Owens would come out and save Sami Zayn, and they were officially back together, and they would challenge the Usos at WrestleMania for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship. And the Tag Team Championship match actually main evented night 1 of WrestleMania, the first time ever of this happening. And Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens would do the unthinkable, beating the longest reigning tag team champions, the Usos, in an incredible match that deserved to main event this pay-per-view. But we're going to end the video right here because in part 3, we're going to talk about the Cody era. Remember I said that Cody played a big role in this. Cody was a huge factor in this whole taking down the Bloodline because him and Kevin Owens and Sami had a mission to take down the entire Bloodline by any means necessary, and Cody was the head of that because he won the Rumble and he was going after Roman Reigns. So in part 3, we're going to get into all that, from the feud from when Cody came back and basically come up on how Cody main event in WrestleMania versus Roman Reigns. And if you enjoyed part 2, man, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you turn those post notifications on so you get notified when I drop part 3 featuring my guy Teal Salesforce, man. And I'm out. Peace.